Read.
The fire is outside the tow truck. Cannot contain it. Over.
If this is your idea of a nightmare, keep watching. On modern ships, these sorts of incidents are rare. But knowing what to do in an emergency can save lives, including your own. Mustering is the gathering together of everyone on the ship in specific locations in the case of an emergency. The muster station is where you gather so the captain or another officer can take a head count and check that everyone is safe and properly equipped.
So mustering completed, all accounted for.
On a cargo ship, this will mean every member of the crew and any other personnel on board.
All crew at the muster station. Nobody is missing.
On a ferry or cruise ship, it also includes all passengers and hotel staff.
Follow me, please.
It is a vital first step should it become necessary to abandon ship.
Lifeboat number 1. This way, please.
When mustering, it is important that on board can depend on you knowing what to do in a crisis. Don't just learn your role in an emergency situation. Be aware of the duties of others, so you are prepared if you have to take over the responsibilities of an injured colleague. The muster list will tell you where to muster, which is your survival craft, and who is in charge of it. This person will have a list of the crew under their command.
Electrical engineer.
And it is their responsibility to make sure the crew members know their duties.
My duty is to wear fireman's outfit and in case of fire in the engine to assist wearing and bring extra cylinders.
Following muster procedures correctly will help keep order and avoid panic in any emergency. The muster list specifies the alarm signals that will be used to relay information. The emergency alarm will be 7 or more short blasts, followed by 1 long blast, sounded on a whistle, siren, bell, or klaxon. But you will need to be familiar with all emergency signals used on your ship. On passenger vessels, code words will sometimes be used to identify minor emergency situations.
Crew announcement, code blue, code blue. Repeat, crew announcement, code blue, code blue.
This is to avoid causing unnecessary alarm for passengers or getting everyone to muster without good reason. The muster list will tell you what your duties are in an emergency situation and will name members of special duty parties such as firefighting and lifeboat preparation teams. It may list substitutes for those roles too, and say who is responsible for maintaining the emergency equipment. You will also need to know how an abandoned ship order would be relayed. It may be a signal or verbally.
All crew to abandon the ship. All crew to abandon the ship.
A ferry or cruise ship muster list will specify who has the passenger list or manifest and who is in charge of evacuating the ship. It will list duties including warning and assembling passengers, controlling their movements, and making sure they are suitably dressed with warm clothing and life jackets. It's the master who is responsible for compiling the list, keeping it up to date, and making sure that it is displayed conspicuously around the ship. Muster cards will usually be found inside your cabin, giving brief details of emergency signals and muster points, sometimes referred to as assembly stations. Passengers will find muster information in their cabins, as well as in public areas. To ensure that everyone fully understands the duties that are allocated to them on the muster list, effective regular drills must be held. These have to be carefully planned and be realistic.
Where is the fire now?
We shouldn't be fire in the steering gear room.
It is not good practice to repeat the same old routines every time.
Okay, let's go, gentlemen.
The frequency of different drills will be specified in the ship's safety management system. If 25% or more of the crew have been changed, then an abandoned ship drill must be held within 24 hours of leaving port.
If you need to jump to the water, put one
On
arm
passenger
across your
vessels,
chest.
drills must be held within 24 hours of embarkation.
If you have any other question, please ask nearest crew member, which will be happy to help you.
An abandoned ship drill consists of a muster of the crew and passengers if appropriate. Passengers should always be strongly encouraged to take part in abandoned ship drills. They should be instructed that the general emergency alarm is a signal that they should go to their assembly or muster point, not a signal to abandon ship. Everyone on board the ship should be notified beforehand that a practice muster is to be held. Crew required to assist passengers in an emergency should have had training in crowd management. This must include awareness of the life-saving appliances and control plans, and knowledge of emergency instructions and emergency exits. They should also have some form of identification to help passengers to recognize them. Special headgear, distinctive markings on life jackets, or just an armband. Guides will be required to help passengers or untrained people to find their muster points, where they are given instructions by their muster station leader.
And with another one. Pinch your nose.
These assembly points will usually be in public rooms, so that passengers can be protected from the adverse weather as long as possible. No elevators should be used in emergency situations. Some crew members will need to control passengers in corridors and staircases. Others will be responsible for keeping escape routes clear of any obstruction. The passengers should be briefed on what they will need to do in an emergency. Remain calm. Dress appropriately for the weather. Don life jackets. Remove high-heel shoes. And know how the embarkation of survival craft will be organized.
Ladies and gentlemen, please listen. I am in charge of this lifeboat. Please listen to my instructions.
It is essential that the ship's crew know the emergency procedures thoroughly, so they can help others with confidence. You may be assigned to help a passenger with a disability. Do you know how to do this?
Gently, guys, please.
If they need medication, make sure they take it with them. Passengers will look to you for leadership, and you will help them most by remaining calm and focused.
Excuse me, I'm going to ask you to leave your bag, your shoes, and would you like to step to the side for me, please? If you'd like to carry on down, please.
Carrying out your duties in a well-rehearsed and familiar way.
Keep your feet together, please.
Even on a cargo ship, there may be people on board who are not part of the regular crew, and who may not be familiar with emergency procedures. Make sure you know how life jackets are to be distributed and how they should be put on. All jackets on any ship should be of the approved make and type. They must have a light source that will last for at least 8 hours, and a whistle to attract attention. The ship will carry sufficient sizes to fit the passenger and crew complement. Children and infants will be allocated specially designed life jackets. and there will also be a supply of oversized adult versions. The sizing should be clearly marked on the life jacket. Getting the correct size of life jacket is extremely important. It may not be possible to help every individual passenger don their life jacket, so a demonstration is usually given.
Open the life jacket by pressing the red button in front of the buckle.
Some crew members will be responsible for ensuring that all passengers are wearing their life jackets correctly.
Yeah, you okay?
Yeah.
Ma'am, you need some help? Yep. Okay, let me help you.
Above all, think about how you would display the leadership and control necessary to reassure passengers
And that.
who may well be frightened and prone to panic.
Connect the velcro stripe.
Some abandoned ship drills will also include boarding the lifeboats. Before anybody enters the lifeboat on an exercise drill, you must confirm that the fall preventer devices are in place and have been checked for security by a person in charge. It is essential to check the boats and their release gear thoroughly before any drill. A number of lifeboats should be lowered to the embarkation deck level during drills.
It'll just take a few moments, then we will be on the water and away from the ship.
They are facing a crisis in an unfamiliar environment, and they will look to you for guidance.
We have to abandon the ship and we have to launch the lifeboat. This is taken for your safety.
As although lifeboat exercises are a regular part of ship's life, accidents have occurred during these drills.
Lifeboat 2 is clear to launch. Over.
On cargo ships, a drill may involve boarding free-fall lifeboats to become familiar with the seating and seatbelt fittings. Crews should also be familiar with the launching procedures.
You have to brace yourself, hold the belt like this.
And know what to expect when the boat's systems are in operation. On cargo ships, where Davitt launched lifeboats are fitted, at least one lifeboat should be lowered when circumstances permit. Davits must be swung out and the winches operated. Lifeboat and rescue boat engines should be tested, where survival craft are launched. The lighting should be checked and maintained on a regular basis. Think about what extra equipment and supplies might be needed if you have to abandon ship, and where they can be found. For example, drinking water, extra non-perishable food, the search and rescue transponder, SART, the emergency position indicating radio beacon, EPIRB, handheld VHF radios with spare batteries, and the ship's flares. Extra clothing and immersion suits can save lives in cold climates. Make sure you are familiar with the use of pyrotechnics used for signaling and any other emergency equipment you might be required to use. Deck crew and navigating officers should know how to operate the line-throwing apparatus. This is usually stored on the bridge. Modern ships rarely run into serious trouble, but if they do, the first principle of safety at sea is that your ship is your best lifeboat. Do not abandon it unless ordered to do so by the master. Never jump into the sea unless there is no alternative. If you do, even under the best conditions, the chances of surviving alone long enough to be found and rescued are very small indeed. In an emergency, A well-trained crew will normally have time to respond to the situation effectively and greatly increase their chances of survival. If the worst should happen, remain calm. All the effort you put into training and preparation really can mean the difference between life and death.